Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Unmasking Synthetic and Deep Fraud Challenges and Solutions with Alaina Worden, CCE. This webinar is hosted by Handel's Building Blocks community, and my name is Lori Drake, and I am the Building Blocks community manager. For those not familiar with Handel, we do have a platform that is purposely built for building materials suppliers, focusing on lien rights management, job and bond research, waiver compliance, as well as a dedicated payment portal. If you're interested in hearing more about Handel or learning more about the Building Blocks community and how to participate, please feel free to shoot me a message in the chat box or reply to the follow-up email that I will send after the event with more information. I'd like to welcome our presenter, Alaina Worden, CCE. She's the Credit and Collections Manager for Carson Team. Bringing over 25 years of experience in construction, trucking, and the fuel industries, she is known for streamlining credit operations and driving workflow efficiencies. Alaina currently serves as Vice Chairman of the NACM Commercial Services Foundation Board and is President of the CFDD Portland Chapter. Her contributions have earned her numerous honors, including the CFDD National Award, the National Distinguished Member Award, and Carson's Circle of Excellence Award. She is a sought-after speaker at industry events and a true community supporter. We are excited to have her present today. Alaina, thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lori. Thanks, everyone, for jumping on today. Hopefully, we can get through the next 45 minutes, and you'll walk away with some good information that will help you as you navigate this new and upcoming crisis that we have in fraud. So my first question to everyone is, what comes to mind when you think of synthetic fraud? If you want to go ahead and drop your one-worded answer in the chat, that would be great.
Got some answers coming in. Fake, theft, social media, theft.
A lot of good ones. So, there's fabrication and deception, forgery, impersonation, scams, right? There's lots of different ones. So what about when you think of deep fakes? Go ahead and kind of drop any additional answers that you have if you think of a deep fake.
AI, that's a good one.
Oops. So looks like several different ones popped up. So really great answers. You have hoax, you have, an illusion, a scam, a counterfeit. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the definition of synthetic fraud. And really all it is mixing real and fake information to create a false identity. So using a stolen social security number with fabricated data like a birth date or an address. And then they use that data to then steal your widgets or your money. There's a couple of different types of synthetic data. I'm not sure why my screen keeps popping forward. What is happening? There's manipulated synthetics. So that's the real identity with slight alterations, and manufactured synthetics, which is completely fake, fabricated identities using just real bits of information. And then when we move on to deep fakes, the definition of the deep fakes is synthetic media created using AI and facial recognition technology. And so the deep fakes typically are what you're going to find in videos, auto recordings, and images. So I do have another poll for you. How confident are you in your ability to identify a deep fake? Very confident, somewhat confident, or not confident at all? Go ahead and type your answer in the chat. Lori, do you want to read off what some of the responses are coming
You
in?
have all somewhat, except for one not confident. So somewhat is
Okay.
definitely the majority that.
Yeah, I think that that's probably where the majority of us live. We kind of we're kind of able to identify it. We're kind of seeing a lot more of it, and so we're getting more familiar with deep fakes. So I'm going to dive into some different types of deep fakes, and the first one we're going to talk about is impersonation. So first off, impersonation is the context of the deep fake involving AI generated synthetic media to mimic the appearance of the victim's voice or actions of the trusted individual. So this technique is particularly dangerous because it exploits the trust and authority associated with the individuals to the device, and the manipulation then goes on to the victims. So fraudsters use it for corporate fraud. They've impersonated a CEO during a video conference, convincing that employee to transfer a large sum of money. Deep fakes can also replicate your voice, and because it seems so real, it leads to the unauthorized access to that sensitive information. So let's talk about why it's so effective. Again, victims are most likely to comply with a request for somebody that they recognize. There's a sense of realism in the deep fake that makes it hard to really separate out the difference between what's genuine and what's fake, increasing the likelihood of the deception to be able to take place. And of course, there's a psychological manipulation factor that takes place, and they're using tactics such as urgency or authority to manipulate the victims into taking immediate action without really thinking through the verification process or taking time to think about it. Diving into what is happening? Why does it keep popping forward? Sorry about that. I think I have a timer on maybe.
Hit pause. It might stop it from forwarding automatically.
Pause. Where's the pause button? Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about social engineering. So this manipulation technique exploits the human psychological compass, I guess, to gain access of the confidential information to perform unauthorized actions. So instead of hacking into a system directly, social engineering tricks individuals into revealing sensitive information or performing actions that compromise security. Example would be a deepfake video of a senior executive instructing employees to bypass security protocols. So some of the other common techniques that we see in social engineering is phishing, right? Sending fraudulent emails or messages that appear to be from legitimate sources to try and trick individuals into providing that personal information. I'm sure we all get emails like this, right? Every single day. Or an employee receives an email that appears to be from the company's IT department, right? They ask them to click on the link to update their password. The individual unknowingly then clicks on the link, and it leads them to a fake website that's designed to capture their login credentials. There's pre-texting. Sorry, something dropped in my ear and I thought that I lost everybody. So I was checking my camera real quick. Sorry. Okay, pre-texting, creating fabricated scenarios to obtain information from a target, such as pretending to be a bank representative. There's the baiting, so offering something enticing like free software or a gift to lure individuals into providing the sensitive information. Tailgating, which is gaining physical access to restricted areas by following someone in with the authorized access. Social engineering often targets employees, customers, individuals with access to valuable information. And the primary goal of social engineering is to still the sensitive information and gain access into a system, then being able to commence whatever fraud action thereafter.
Hey, Elena, I thought of an example of this. We fixed it, so it's not a problem anymore. But for the longest time, anytime Handle hired a new employee, each employee, because I got one as well, so we got a text message from the owner of the company asking for $250, saying that, hey, he couldn't get through the accounts payable person. She was out on vacation or whatever, and was asking if we could help, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it looked so legit. It was not even funny. Thankfully, none of us fell for it, and it did get fixed. But obviously, I'm guessing that was one of these.
Yeah, it's always keeping your guard up and never being quick to respond or to click into anything. So some preventions include awareness training. So educating your staff about social engineering. I heard an individual, I was at, I think, a conference, and this individual said that their company has a dedicated process within their IT department that runs drills, and anybody who then fails on those drills sit in on a educational session. I thought that that was a really cool idea. I mean, I think most of our companies do send out, those fake emails to see, are we going to click on the link? And then, at our company, we just get like a pop-up that said, oh, you shouldn't have clicked on this, and, and on you go with the day. And we get a lot of notifications that come out of how to be aware, how to protect yourself, that sort of thing. But I thought that it was interesting that this company took it a step farther and they actually dive deeper into it, and they have a whole awareness training process in place. Again, and then that verification process. So implementing procedures to verify the identity of the individuals requesting sensitive information, so that if it falls outside of what your verification process is, then you are more aware of potential fraud, because something is then not lined up, right? Fraudsters don't always know what your verification processes are. And if you have those in place, you can help protect yourself. And then enhancing a security policy. So establishing and enforcing strong security policies to protect against the social engineering, right? So the phishing emails, that sort of thing. I do have a quick story, because I thought that this was interesting, just showing how by having these processes in place can protect your company. In this sense, it wasn't fraud, but I still think that it's a good scenario. So a few weeks ago, I authorized a $500,000 refund to be ACH'd back to one of our customers that they had paid a deposit via check months ago for a project that they were going to start. Through a series of different circumstances, they ended up not moving forward with that project, so we needed to give them the deposit money back. And it was just easier for us to ACH the money back to them than to actually write a check and send a check back to them. So push the money through. Our bank called, and I'm not going to go through all the details because I don't want to share all of the verifications, but our bank called. They went through their protocols of verifying, which is a multi-step investigation, I'll call it, that they did. We confirmed, yes, this is correct, okay to send the customer. Well, they still weren't convinced that this was a valid push, because we've never ACH'd this customer with such a high dollar amount, and they didn't even find like a check within the system for this customer. And so they had a second tier fraudulent department that reached out and had additional measures that we had to then go through so that the customer could get their money. And I think in the long run, it probably would have been faster to mail the check to the customer than to go through it. But I'm really thankful that our bank flagged it, right? And that they're checking and making sure that we're not falling victims to these deep fakes. So let's dive into some financial fraud. Oh, it's doing it again. So financial fraud is creating fake documents, right? It's identity theft, it's Ponzi schemes, it's false insurance claims. So, for example, a fraudster might create a fake bank statement showing a higher value to secure a loan, or to forge employee verification letters to maybe appear more financially stable. So, detecting fake documents include a combination of the visual inspection, technical analysis, and then verification against known standards. So, some of those standards are like checking for errors. So, typically, looking for spelling errors or incorrect logos, mismatched fonts, layout issues. Genuine documents are usually going to have a consistent flow. And if you're touching a tangible piece of paper, right, it's going to be high quality printing. You should examine security features if the documents that you're looking at have them. So genuine documents have like holograms, watermarks, microprinting, color shifting, ink, that sort of thing. And then cross-check your information, verify that the details on the document against official records or databases. So if you're looking at a bank statement, perhaps, looking at the bank records, or for employment verification letter, perhaps like reach out to verify the employer's or employee's records. And then spreading misinformation. So deepfakes, like to look realistic, but fake videos and audio recordings of individuals can be very difficult to discern. It typically targets public figures such as politicians and celebrities, or other people that have a big influence on our lives. The consequences is it causes confusion, so the public may be unaware and unable to then determine what the truth is, leading to widespread confusion. There's a layer of manipulation that happens, right? The deep fakes can be used to manipulate public opinion by creating false narratives. And then there's the erosion of trust. So trust in legitimate sources then become watered down because people start to become skeptical if any of the information is legitimate. So some of the strategies to kind of negate is raising awareness about the existence and danger of the deep fakes, and then using detection tools and verification. So verifying that it's from a reliable source, that sort of thing. Okay, so we're going to jump into another poll. Which of the following is common use of deep fakes and fraud? Impersonation, social engineering, financial fraud, or all of the above? Go ahead and type your number in the chat.
4s across the board.
4s across the board. You're all winners. You all got it. Congratulations. So some of the legal implications of deep fraud is, just kind of privacy violations, the intellectual property theft, identity theft, and there is a need for regulatory changes in the legal framework of kind of what's happening. And we'll get into this in a few slides, but they are really working towards creating some better structure around that piece. So let's dive into some tips for identifying. So odd blinking patterns. So a person in a video is blinking too frequently or not at all, where you kind of see, the head kind of move around. Deepfakes algorithms sometimes struggle to replicate the natural blinking patterns. And so you'll see, the blink. Now, you could just have somebody who has something in their eye, but most likely, like, this is something that you see those unnatural facial movements, they're going to make you question on whether or not it's a legitimate video. Facial expressions. So deepfakes also have a difficulty of capturing the natural facial movements, and so they tend to look more stiff or unnatural. We don't really have time to click into this video, but the link is going to be sent out, within the presentation, and so you can click on it. This is a video that shocked me because I really thought that it was that it wasn't a deep fake. And it really is just somebody that is saying, oh, that their daughter is having these silent seizures and going through it. And anyways, worth looking at, because some of these deep fakes can really trick you, and it's sometimes very hard to identify. So other ways is the robotic voices. So just listen to how it doesn't mimic like the natural speak pattern. It's very kind of monotone. And then unnatural pauses. If there's awkward pauses or breaks in the audio where it doesn't match the natural flow of the discussion, then it probably is fake. And I would say with TikTok, there's probably more fake videos out there than any of us were ever aware of. So other tips. So unusual lighting. If the lighting on the person's face doesn't match the rest of the scene, then and there's noticeable discrepancies, then perhaps that's something that could give you identify. Shadows. So shadows on a person's face or their body appears inconsistent with the environment. Inaccurate shadowing can be a giveaway that the video has been manipulated. Blurriness. So parts of the video, especially around the edges of the person's face, appear to be blurry or pixelated. So different from us having a background on and our faces being caught in that. So in a live situation, right? Obviously, probably not fake, but in watching a video, you shouldn't see that happen. Interesting that if you Google deep fake videos, AI bot, you will get an array of ways that you can create a deep fake. You don't have to download anything, and you can just, it is at people's fingertips to create these fakes. Verification. So, you know, if you see a suspicious video, verify the information by checking with a reputable news source or an official channel of the individual. Cross-referencing with trusted sources will help confirm if it's an authentic video or not. And then use deepfake detection software. So tools like Deepware Scanner, Microsoft Video Authenticator. These tools use advanced algorithms to detect inconsistencies and artifacts that may include the deepfakes. And then contextual mismatch. So out of context scenarios, a video shows a person in a setting that seems unlikely or out of character. It's probably a deep fake. This picture kind of in the background represents someone who's ready to swim in the middle of the desert. It's probably not going to happen, right? So let's dive into some of the statistics. So 10-fold increase in incidences between 22 and 23. So we're on a rapid rise. 60% of consumers have encountered deepfake videos in the last year. However, the human detection accuracy is only at 62%. So we have some work to do to be able to identify these. And there's a huge financial loss with these deepfakes. So nearly $500,000 at the average business lost in 2024. And the surge, 3,000% of increased fraud attempts since 2023. Staggering numbers. These are staggering numbers. We're all impacted by this every single day, whether we're aware of it or not. So ways to protect yourself: be cautious, be suspicious, always double check any unexpected messages, especially if it's asking for financial information. New to a company, CFO's asking you for a couple $100, right? Got to double check that stuff, right? So contact the sender then through a known trusted method to confirm their identity. So if you think it's suspicious, reach out. I do that with my friends all the time. They'll send me different videos and stuff through different social platforms, and I'll send them a message and say, what did you just send me? Right? Is this really you? Because our identities are stolen on social platforms all the time. And then that's just another way for the fraudsters to get through. So I'm always suspicious of any kind of links, whether it's in my personal life or my professional life. Don't click on any untrusted links or attachments. So be wary. Always hover over the links to see the actual URL, the URL code before clicking on it, link. Before you download anything, make sure that you're certain that it's safe. Double check the sender's email address. Look for small inconsistencies like an added letter or letters to a name. This method, the fraudsters love to use to detect their victims. To deceive their victims. So even documents that were once secure, like DocuSign, are being forged. So always keep your guard up, and when in doubt, reach out. So always confirm the identities of the individuals, especially if they're making a high-stake requests, and then have that multi-factor authentication in place to add an extra layer of security with your passwords. So identify, recognize, and report. Okay, so stay informed, keep up to date on the latest scams, educate yourself about what's going on, and follow the reputable sources for the continual new updates. You will learn something new every day, I guarantee it. Look for inconsistencies in media, be vigilant for signs of deep fake media. And then report suspicious activities to the authorities. So if you suspect that you've been targeted by a deep fake scam or any other type of scam, report it to the authorities. You want to make sure that you provide as much information as possible so that you could help in the investigation to prevent future incidents. And then again, I'm going to go back to that awareness training, educate employees and individuals around you about the risk of deep fakes and how to recognize. So another poll question, what tip did you find the most useful for protecting yourself from deep fake frauds? Being cautious, avoiding suspicious links, verifying identities, using strong passwords, staying informed, recognizing the deep fakes, or reporting suspicious activities. Just curious on which one stood out most to you.
We got recognize, we got stay informed, be cautious, staying informed a couple times, recognizing several times.
Perfect.
I think recognizing, I think just even knowing that they're out there's
yeah. Really, before I started preparing for this presentation, I didn't know a lot about deep fakes, right? My mind was just in the world of kind of synthetic fraud because that's what I thought that I dealt with mostly. And then as I started researching, it became aware that really deep fakes really is a lot more relevant than any of us, I think. So with that, we'll just go ahead and dive into synthetic fraud.
Turn off, Echo, turn off the reminder.
Oh, sorry, I'll mute her.
Oh, okay. The rise of synthetic fraud. So it advances technology, gives fraudsters new opportunity. So the AI generated decision makes it harder and more difficult for us to identify synthetic fraud. So really kind of in the business world where you're utilizing a platform that just maybe runs the credit experience information and kind of pops out. I mean, we do it every single day. If you go online and you apply for a credit card, you're going to get an instant answer, right? That's going through some sort of AI generated decision maker, and those are at a higher risk of synthetic fraud, being victims of synthetic fraud. Although I will say manual processes are also very vulnerable. So always slow down and look for those inconsistencies. We're going to kind of dive into for businesses. So businesses face significant financial loss due to fraudulent transactions and unpaid debts. A synthetic identity is used to open multiple credit accounts, accumulate debts, and then they disappear, leaving the business to absorb the loss. So statistics, I love statistics. So I found it very fascinating that synthetic fraud accounts for billions of dollars in losses annually across various industry. And it has creates a lot of hardship for businesses that are victims of the synthetic fraud. So trust for that business can be eroded. 75% of companies cite that cybercrime includes synthetic fraud as a top concern of theirs. There's an operational component to it. So increased costs for fraud detection and prevention measures. Businesses have to invest in that detection software, and then they have to go through employee training to try and help prevent it. So companies are actually spending millions of dollars on fraud prevention and processes every year. So jumping down to kind of the consumer side of things. So consumers may unknowingly be linked to synthetic identities affecting their credit scores and they don't even know it. Personal information is being misused every single day. The majority of people's social security numbers have been breached and are on the black market. And I thought that this statistic was really interesting. So children are actually most often the victim of synthetic identity theft. A study shows that their social security numbers are 51 times more likely to be used in synthetic identity theft than an adult. Why? Because children often have no credit. So it makes their social security numbers kind of that clean state, and the fraudsters can establish any kind of identity that they want with it. So again, staggering numbers. Looking at some of the statistics, global losses, $1 trillion in losses globally due to scams. $1 trillion. And sadly, the recovery rate's only 4%. So fraud has increased 70% since the pandemic. So within the last 5 years, there's been a 70% uptick of fraud. And it's projected that $40 billion will be lost in scams by 2027. Half of consumers surveyed are concerned about conducting activities online, which 5 years ago, it was like, oh, we can do all this online. This is great. This is great. And now people are going, wait a second, there's so much fraud happening. Do I really want to do this online? Fun fact, I just had my debit card compromised last weekend. I was going downtown to do something and I needed to pay for parking. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to download, it's called Hello Kitty or Kitty something. I don't know. It's a stupid name for a parking app, but that's what it is. And I went to Google rather than going into the App Store. I don't know why, I just did. And I clicked on the link. And then as I clicked on it to like put in my information, I was like, wait a second, I need to be in the App Store. What am I doing? And so I thought I backed out of it, but by that time they already had my card information and my card was compromised within minutes. And so my bank called me, and then I was scared because it didn't say the name of the bank or anything. And they're like, what's your name? And all of this. And I'm like, well, you're calling me. I'm just going to call the bank directly myself, and, hung up the phone because you don't know, and you have to be extra cautious. So even as cautious as everyone is, we can still be caught off guard. So, and then businesses, 75% of companies, again, state that cybercrime is their top concern. So protection strategies for businesses, advanced detection tools, regular audits, conducting those frequent audits of customers' accounts and transactions, and then employee training, educate to recognize the signs of synthetic fraud, and the creating those protocols to once it's identified. What do you do once you notice it? So avoid rush approvals. Urgency tactic, don't succumb to those urgency tactics. Review applications thoroughly. If it seems too good to be true, it likely is. Trust your instincts. Vigilance can prevent significant loss. Okay. And then monitor, secure, and report. So monitor credit reports. Check for unusual activities. Be cautious about sharing your personal information online. Use strong passwords. Change your passwords often. Report any suspicious activity to your financial institutions and the credit bureaus as soon as you come across it. I read somewhere that said that we should change our passwords every 30 days and that your password should not be the same across all platforms, which when you get to be to a certain age, shared passwords are really convenient, but really think about that. And then, some companies are starting to identify when a password has been breached. So I went to go change the password for a credit card, and it told me that I couldn't use that password because that password had been breached. So, I think that companies are really trying to be smarter and share information and really kind of help to reduce the risk, but it's still out there. Some additional prevention tools. So, I don't know, dark web monitoring. I thought that was interesting. A lot of information ends up out on the dark market. And to be able to monitor that, I thought that was a good one. Some of these I didn't even realize existed. Okay, so what is the definition of mixing real and fake information to create a false identity? Is it synthetic fraud or deep fake?
We got a deep fake, synthetic.
So that is synthetic fraud. Deep fake is synthetic media creating AI and facial recognition technology. So, and then the laws that I was talking about. So federal regulation. So there are some acts out there right now. So that requires the, let me start again. There are acts out there that require different imports and research that is happening from different individuals. And that data is all over the internet and worth taking time to read what kind of some of these regulations or laws are. The No Fake Act was introduced in 2023, and then they did a whole bunch of stuff and reintroduced it in 2024. And it really helped. It is aimed to inform the individuals of their rights, and that our voices are then heard if you become a victim of this. There's a bunch of state regulations that are out there. And then there's some international regulations. So there's global efforts on there. So different countries are developing their own regulations to address the deep fakes, and raising public awareness is what's going to help prevent us from succumbing to these attacks.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Alaina, thank you for your time, and we hope to see everybody next time.